Hey guys, so I just want to do a quick intro to this video. I am interviewing a home appraiser, and this video is really long, but it's packed full of great information on home appraisals. So if you want to understand appraisals, this is a video you don't want to miss. So I'm here with Michelle Sager or Sager?
Sager.
Sager. I'm here with Michelle Sager of Follis
Appraisal
Appraisals.
Services.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and I brought Michelle here to talk about appraisals and what an appraiser does, and also some of the new rules and regulations that have been put into effect as of beginning of April.
April 1st.
So, Michelle, tell me what an appraiser does.
So an appraiser provides market value for a home, either for a refinance, a purchase. We also do appraisals for divorce situations, estates, taxes, all the things that you might possibly need a value for your home and your property on.
So, in talking about real estate purchasing, does a buyer is purchasing a property, do they just call an appraiser up? Or does their bank just call an appraiser up? So what's the process of somebody goes through to where you get the call, to where you go and show up at a house?
That's a great question. So most of the time when lending is occurring for a loan process, the borrower has a specific lender that they choose, and the lender selects an appraisal management company which they utilize, and occasionally they come straight from the lender, but most companies are using an appraisal management company.
So appraisal management company is like a third-party buffer in between the lender and the appraiser.
That is correct, yes. And so the lender uses the AMC, and they have their list of approved appraisers. We apply to be on their panels. They review all of our stuff and accept us or don't.
Yeah.
And they send the orders directly to us. So my client is the lender.
Is the bank.
Yes. My client is not the borrower. My client is not the person buying the home or selling the home.
Yeah.
And so my duty is to the lender.
To make sure that the home is worth what a buyer is paying.
Yes, so it makes sure that the bank is lending an appropriate amount for the purchase of a property, and they're not overpaying or buying a property or lending on a property that is damaged or a safety or a health risk in any way.
Gotcha. So you get this assigned to a home to appraise. What happens that when you show up at the house, someone lets you in, what do you do at the house?
So once I get to the home, my process is the same whether there's people home or an agent with me, or if it's vacant and I'm by myself. Every appraiser has their own method, but I personally like to start inside, so that if I have to do anything outside, I'm not tracking back in mud and dirt and things. And I'm going to go through all the rooms in the house. I'm going to take pictures of every room, and this shows the lender that all of the rooms are made of this quality material, this type of material, the construction. It shows that there are no damages, no deferred maintenance, or on the other hand, that there is. And then after I've taken a picture of every room in the house, I generally will do first floor, second floor, basement, and then I go outside, and I'm going to be taking pictures of the outside of the home. I will be taking measurements of the exterior of the home, and that's so we can make sure you get the right square footage.
Yeah.
And any outbuildings, garage,
Any features of the home?
anything else that is going to be considered part of the property, so
Yeah.
it's not like a shed that you might take with you or something.
Yeah.
Then those would be photographed as well and measured.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I've been to a bunch of appraisers, I've been to a bunch of appraisals.
That's actually where we met.
Yeah. And so it seems to me like the average appraisal time takes, half an hour, between half an hour and an hour. Would that be accurate?
Yeah. I think the longest I've ever been at an appointment was 2 hours, but that was for an extremely large home, and it took me half the time to measure it.
Yeah,
So,
gotcha.
But typically, in a normal home, or not normal, but a standard home,
Yeah.
it would be 30 minutes, an hour if we get chatty.
Yeah. And so you come through the house, you take all these measurements, you take all these photos, you look to see if there's any deferred maintenance.
Yeah.
Then what happens? You go back and you...
So generally, prior to arriving at the home, I have pulled some preliminary data, checked out what comparables I think might be appropriate in the neighborhood or that are similar into what public record shows.
Yeah.
When I get to the home, I make sure the public record is either, yay, it's correct, or no,
Yeah.
surprise, there's an accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, those types of
Sure.
situations. So I'll have my preliminary data, and then I will reconcile that with what was at the house.
Yeah.
And I will begin the process of analyzing the comparables. I go through my process, and it's a story kind of the whole way. When I start doing the process, I start generally with the property itself, and then we go down to the neighborhood that it's in, and then the type of improvements, and then what could be considered comparable. And it's just this process, and by the end, the picture becomes clear.
Yeah.
And we have a range of values
Is there
that
a
house might be worth.
requirement for, let's say, there's the state of Washington, for it has to have sold within an X amount of months, or it has to be, if it's a 4-bedroom, you can't compare it to a 1-bedroom, or what are the rules on that? Or are they pretty loose?
So I like to say that the appraising is many shades of gray.
Okay.
There's no black and white. Well, I can't say there's none. We have some, which are facts. This is a house, and it's located in Bellingham. That's a fact.
Yeah.
We have a house that has 2 stories. Fact. Okay. But there are different things that that are in play with all of the decisions that are made in the appraisal process. You have, let's say that you have 4 bedrooms, but all the sales that I'm able to find are 3 bedrooms.
Yeah.
Well, I'm supposed to then be able to bracket the number of bedrooms, which means I have to find one with a lower amount. Preferably all 4 bedrooms would be utilized.
So you have to find another comp.
I have to find other sales in the neighborhood that are similar to the property that I'm appraising. So I'm going to be looking for properties with the same architectural style. So I'm not going to be trying to appraise or compare a 2-bedroom or 2-story house to a 1-story house, because a lot of times, and this is something that you can probably speak more to,
Yeah.
buyers who are looking specifically for a 1-bedroom or 1-level house are not going to necessarily entertain a 2-level house.
Yeah.
And so those are some of the things that we're going to be looking at, and trying to make sure that the size of the site is similar and the condition of the improvements is similar. I wish that I could have a black and white answer for you on any of the situations.
What happens if you have a house that's really unique? There's no comparable properties. What do you do then?
Then you pull your hair out and bang your head against the wall. No.
Yeah.
No, then it's kind of like, okay, this house has this feature, this one has this feature, and you're basically finding all the pieces
Yeah.
to support all of those unique features,
Yeah.
and you're making a picture of all of them with multiple different houses.
Does the bank have any oversight, or does the bank ever come back and say, gosh, there's just what comps that you use are just so different? Do they have anybody who looks at it, or do they just take whatever you say as word?
So, especially when the companies are using appraisal management services, we are doubly checked. Our reports are doubly checked. They are checked by reviewers at the appraisal management company, and they're also checked by the actual underwriters and loan officers at the lender. And so my conversations are not with the underwriters at the lender, they're with the appraisal management company, but I am getting comments, revisions, requests from both sets of reviewers. And so, yes, one of the things that you can do if your appraisal is not satisfactory to where you wanted it to be, is you can request a reconsideration of value, and that would be a time in which the lender would be able to say, here are some additional comparables that were provided, and we would like you to look at these again.
So you're saying, I don't have much to look at here. I'm going to throw this back and ask to see if anyone else has any comps that they want to use?
Kind of, yeah. Typically, though, in situations where I know, like a purchase situation, I will contact the listing agent and find out from them if there were any comparables that I may have missed.
How, in a crazy seller's market that we are in, because right now it seems like every single week values are going up and up and up.
Yep.
So there may not be supported sold comps to support the value. Can you use other things like the fact that a house may have had 10 offers on it to justify a value, or no?
So I am limited with what the market will allow me to do. And what that means is that if I cannot find a comparable that goes up to $900,000 and you're at $890 on your contract, and the highest one I have is $850, then I cannot go above that without really good evidence to support it. And that may be, there are 10 offers, there's nothing else. If inventory is scarce, those factors I'll take into
If it was 6 months ago, can you take that?
Yeah, we make adjustments for time. One of the things that we do just as much as realtors do is we analyze how quickly this acceleration has been happening. And likewise, any kind of decline or stabilization, we have to be able to analyze the market so that we can adjust for those differences. We had a 25% gain in the first year of the pandemic from 2020 to 2021 in Bellingham. 25%. And it was larger in other areas like Sun Valley, 35%. And this was 2020 to 2021.
35%. Value increase year over year in Sun Valley, 25% year over year in Bellingham. That is insane.
It is insane, and so a lot of the areas in Whatcom County have seen similar growth. There has been somewhat of a slowdown from 2021 to 2022, but by slowdown I mean 15% in Bellingham. So while it's a slowdown from 25%, it's still 15% up.
Slight deceleration.
Right. But still enough. Rather than adjusting a sale at 2% per month for time, it's now 1% per month for time. Which is still a big amount.
Still a lot.
I've never made such huge time adjustments as I have in the last 2 years. It's been crazy.
I can imagine. So, State of Washington introduced some new rules on how you measure.
It's not the state's.
It's not the state.
No, okay. This is a Fannie Mae rule.
Okay.
Fannie Mae has adopted new guidelines for measuring, and they are now going to be following ANSI standards. It's ANSI Z765-2021 is the model or the number of the ANSI standard, and it doesn't change much in the process for anybody except for appraisers. And the main thing is the method of reporting the square footage is going to be changing. And this is only for Fannie Mae backed loans. I don't know what a Fannie Mae backed loan will be. So for me, that means any appraisal that is being done for a single family home for a lender, I'm going to assume it's going to be sold to Fannie Mae just so that I'm covering all my bases. Now, Freddie Mac, VA, FHA, they're not requiring ANSI standards, but they're also not going to say you can't measure to ANSI standards.
So can you go into a little bit in depth as to what those standards are?
So instead of GLA, which has been a common term used for gross living area, ANSI uses finished square footage and unfinished square footage, and then they also further break it down into above grade and below grade. And below grade is considered any part of the dwelling that is 1 inch, or excuse me, though that's the old rule. Sorry, forget that. That is any part of the structure is touching earth is considered below grade.
So all the daylight basements.
Basically, yep.
Basements, daylight basements.
Daylight basements. I even had one that I did where the entire 3 floors were in the earth. So in that case...
So how do you... so tell me the difference, because I've seen appraisals to where there was a massive daylight basement and the appraiser gave that a much different value than the main level.
So basements are a funny thing. It can be difficult for appraisers and realtors and buyers and sellers to come together on what a basement means, what value it should have assigned to it, these different things. And one of the things that the ANSI standards is trying to do is get everybody on the same page in that regard. For a basement, if it is the same finish as the remainder of the house, so in most times daylight basements, the upper level and the lower level are of the same grade quality, the same condition, and there's no difference in any of the first floor versus the second floor. So simply being below grade does not mean it's worth less.
Yeah.
What it means is there is some adoption, just like a first floor to a second floor. You're going to have some materials that are going to be used for all of the dwellings. So you're not going to be getting exactly the same per square foot amount for your basement or your second floor, because your first floor is going to have all of your plumbing and all of the necessities, and all the things are going to run from that main floor. Yeah. Most of the time, I do realize that there are some systems in basements and whatnot. Sure. But then again, it's still going to up through the floor, and it's only on one. So you're not triple paying or paying twice for it, or then receiving double value. So typically, I might make it worth $10 or $20 per square foot less, which is what the market shows. Sure. Just so you guys know, I'm not making these adjustments arbitrarily. They are supported by the market. Sure. If they're not supported by the market, the adjustments cannot be made. And so that's another thing that we do, is we analyze the differences. If this house has this and this house doesn't, but everything else is the same, what is somebody willing to pay more for this feature than this one because they don't have it? And so that's how we deduct adjustments and percentages and things like that. And so you really shouldn't be getting less credit for anything below grade unless it's unfinished, of course. An unfinished space below grade, or even an unfinished space above grade, is not going to be worth as much as this finished space. So those are some of those differences.
So back to this ANSI. So tell us, so we kind of got a little bit on a tangent, which was great. So the new standards, what is it going to mean? I guess the biggest thing. The biggest thing is it's going to mean for the general public, realtors, loan officers, is that it may show up in a different area on the report, but the square footage will be there, and it will be accounted for, and it will be valued if it should be valued. So, for instance, if you have a home all above grade, and you have a storage room that's 10 by 10 in the back, and it's unfinished, that cannot be counted as living space. It cannot be counted as finished, above grade living space. Previously, there may have been some who would include that in the square footage overall of the home. It is part of the overall footprint of the home, but it cannot be considered and valued as living area. So do you think this change will cause appraisers more appraisals that they're not able to count some square footage that they would have normally been able to count? So no, we're not counting square footage again.
Sorry.
Livable.
You're fine. I would never have counted a 10 by 10 storage room unfinished as finished living area before, and I'm hopeful that most other appraisers would not have. So you really shouldn't be getting much difference in that regard. Again, it's just a difference in reporting. One of the things that I have gleaned over the last month or so of doing trainings and webinars and talking to other appraisers nationwide is that this is a much bigger deal in some markets because they don't have basements. They have homes that have a couple inches of dirt on the sides, and so those are now going below grade.
Sure.
And that is causing some major confusion.
Sure.
But we're lucky in our area because we have basements.
Yeah.
And so it's really not a huge difference. It's not much of a change. You know, I was always separating out unfinished space from finished space in basements anyways.
Yeah.
So hopefully most other appraisers, again, we're doing the same.
Sure.
But when I say that most other appraisers were hopefully doing that, that's what this ANSI standard is aimed at, is getting us all on the same page.
Just
Where it becomes a problem is that reporting is not universal with the assessor's page or listing information.
Sure.
Public record does not measure to ANSI standards.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's kind of this process of, well, okay, Fannie Mae's adopted this. This is going to be part of our appraising world.
Yeah.
How do we go about getting other people to change their systems and their methods? Other entities, I shouldn't say people, but other entities like the assessor's office or MLS. You know, who's calling up Northwest Multiple, hi, and saying, you really need to change the fields on the listing forms now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that's going to happen, but that's where a lot of the confusion is coming into play. So in regards to having a basement, I can generally tell by public record pictures what is considered a basement and what is not. Where I'm going to run into problems then is, does that comparable have an unfinished room in that basement?
Sure.
So that's kind of where it's going to come into play, where we're going to need to have everybody on board and on the same page of understanding. So as an agent or realtor, you can say to an appraiser or even a homeowner, there's a 10 by 10 space in your basement that's not finished. That's going to be taken out, and it's going to be counted as unfinished space in your basement instead. So everybody, it's what I've been saying this entire time, is just educate, educate, educate.
Sure. Got
to get the word out there. Got to help people understand how it works, and so that's my goal.
That's what we're doing here.
Just to try and help people understand what the new system is. Yeah.
One last question for you is, what are your predictions for the next 6 months?
I predict lots of sun and fun, and that's all I'm really know. Predicting the market is so hard, and especially right now.
I know.
I think it's going to be really important as we see what's going to happen with the spring. Hopefully more people will be willing to sell, but then again, there's always that lovely, where am I going to move to? So, you know, we're in a very different market than anybody has really ever seen before.
Sure.
So it's not easy to predict what's going to be coming. I'm just kind of riding the ride along with everybody else, you know?
Totally.
So.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for joining me. And if anyone wants to reach you to have their home appraised, how would they go about doing that?
I am reachable by email, michelle@follisappraisals.com. That's plural.
We'll put a link wherever this video is posted. And cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good to talk to you.
Hey, it's Briddick. If you are considering buying, selling, or investing in real estate in Bellingham, Whatcom, and Skagit County, I would love to connect with you. You can call me or text me directly at 360-920-1218. I look forward to connecting.